Sage the Dragon, Episode 25, The Invoice. The problem with clear thinking is not that it spreads slowly. It spreads quickly, and when it does, it begins to reveal things that many systems would prefer to remain hidden. Across the world, something deeply inconvenient had begun to appear. Polls. And the polls were troubling, not for the general population, but for those who governed it. Clear thinking, it seemed, had measurable effects. Approval ratings were falling, questions were increasing, and explanations were no longer working as well as they used to. In response, committees were formed. Committees to study the effects of clarity. Committees to regulate it. Committees to contain it. And eventually, one particularly efficient committee reached a conclusion. The dragon had to go. General Halvorsen stood on a pathway of the meteor's crystal gardens, holding a document. He did not look comfortable. Sage, meanwhile, was carefully inspecting a spiraling lattice of clear, luminous giant blue crystals growing along part of the exterior surface. "They've sent you to me with some paperwork," Sage observed. Halvorsen sighed. "They have." He hesitated, then handed the dragon a printed sheet. "It's a bill." Sage took it delicately between two claws. "A bill," he repeated. "For what purpose?" "Security," Halvorsen said. "There have been incidents. Increased deployment. Drone engagements. Containment measures." Sage read silently for a moment. The total was substantial. Million, possibly more. The dragon looked up. "I see." Halvorsen shifted awkwardly. "I am sorry. You are not responsible for this," Sage replied calmly. "That's kind of you," Halvorsen said. "But I'm the one delivering it." Sage considered the document again. "Dragons," he said thoughtfully, "do not participate in monetary systems." "I gathered that. We do not require currency." "I also gathered that." Sage nodded. "In our civilization, value is exchanged through discovery." Halvorsen blinked. Discovery, new knowledge, new methods, new understandings of reality. The general stared at the paper in his hand. "Well," he said slowly, "they're not going to accept a theory of quantum horticulture as payment." Sage tilted his head slightly. "No," he agreed. "Probably not." The dragon turned, walked a short distance into the crystal garden, and examined a large growth. A moment later, he reached out and gently removed a single crystal. It was a diamond, enormous, roughly the size of a watermelon. He carried it back and placed it carefully in front of Halvorsen. "Will this suffice?" Sage asked. The general looked at it, then at the dragon, then back at the diamond. "Yes," he said, after a pause. "Yes, I think that will probably cover it." The news spread rapidly. Not the bill. That was predictable. But the diamond. Because once people understand that something exists in abundance, it changes how they think about everything else. Markets reacted. Experts debated. Several luxury goods industries quietly reconsidered their long-term strategies. Meanwhile, Sage made an announcement. A farewell gathering. One final evening in the Crystal Gardens. The following night, the meteor shimmered under a clear sky. Guests arrived. Scientists, soldiers, journalists, engineers, and Emily Carter. The barbecue was, by now, a familiar ritual. Dragon fire. Perfectly controlled. Perfectly precise. Food prepared without error. Conversation flowing easily under the glow of the crystal formations. Sage addressed the gathering. "I have received a request," the dragon said calmly. "A financial request." There was some quiet laughter. "I have settled it," Sage continued. "But I believe my continued presence may create instability." Halvorsen nodded slightly. "That's one way to put it." Sage inclined his head. "I will therefore return to orbit." There was a pause. "But I will continue observing." Emily stepped forward. "And the crystal tea?" "It will continue to appear where it is needed," Sage said. Emily smiled slightly. "That should keep things interesting." Sage turned toward her. "Would you like to observe from orbit?" There was no hesitation. "Yes." Emily arrived early the next morning. The desert was quiet. The meteor was waiting. She stepped inside. The interior was calm, ordered, and softly illuminated. "Ready?" Sage asked. "Always," she replied. The meteor lifted smoothly from the desert floor. No sound, no fire, just motion. They rose into the sky. Halfway across the ocean, something else rose to meet them. Several somethings. Projectiles. Fast. Precise. Extremely expensive. Emily watched through the viewing field. Are those? Yes, Sage said. They are. There was no obvious response from the meteor. No energy barriers. No panigdaying. The ballistic projectiles approached. Closer. Closer. And then abruptly they changed. Their shape softened. Their trajectory wobbled. And within seconds, the incoming rockets had transformed into, are those sausages? Emily asked. They are, Sage confirmed. The objects, now enormous mortadella sausages, continued their descent harmlessly into the ocean below. Several sharks were about to have a very unusual day. Emily stared, then slowly raised her camera. I'm definitely keeping this footage, she said. That would be reasonable, Sage replied. They reached orbit shortly afterward. Below them, Earth turned quietly. Above them, the stars remained unchanged. Inside the meteor, Sage poured 2 cups of crystal tea. Emily accepted hers. They sat together, watching. Across the surface of the planet, small flashes appeared. More attempts, more effort, more very expensive misunderstandings. Each one resolved just as harmlessly as the last. Emily took a sip of tea. So she said, this is what you meant by observation. Sage nodded. Yes. Below them, another missile briefly became something much less threatening. A giant candy cane. Emily watched it fall and burn up on re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Then smiled. You know, she said, this might be the most educational broadcast in human history. Sage considered this. Possibly, he said. He paused, then added, Dragon Principle 25. Emily looked at him. When a system becomes afraid of understanding, Sage said calmly, it begins to behave in a very costly manner. They continued drinking tea, and watching, and learning.